Tokuchi and Johan are two impressive psychological manipulators, using many different forms to trick or persuade others into doing what they want, strategically learning about their targets. So, who is smarter? Let's find out. First up is Spatial, and Tokuchi gets all these points. Johan hasn't any real showings with spatial awareness and not even close to Tokuchi's level of awareness. Tokuchi often uses spatial capabilities such as knowing the players in use and how they think or accounting for the weather and combining these things to create plans for his team. Tokuchi gets all these with easy difficulty, meaning he gets the overall points, giving him 31 points and Johan with 0. Next is Interpersonal, and the first category is understanding your own intentions. This is really close, but Johan seems to edge it out. It's hard to tell as there's not much inner monologue like how most intelligent characters have, but Johan comes off as knowing exactly what he wants, while in some cases Tokuchi switches intentions. Johan gets this with hard difficulty. Next is understanding what you will do. This is somewhat close, but Tokuchi takes this as he always has plans and adjustment plans for strategies he prepares for, while Johan is more strictly someone who goes with the flow of things. Tokuchi takes this with medium difficulty. Next is understanding your limitations. Johan doesn't really show this, but Tokuchi does, learning new things to adopt new plans and strategies when he knows he lacks the knowledge on something. Tokuchi takes this with easy difficulty. Next is understanding your knowledge. This is close. On one hand, Johan would have to understand his knowledge to take advantage of all the people he does, while on the other hand Tokuchi is well versed in his field of expertise and uses it to the fullest ability he can while he's playing. This would seem to lean towards Tokuchi, who gets this with hard difficulty. Next is adaptability. Tokuchi seems to edge this out as when he lacks an understanding of something, he is fully willing to adjust his strategy or learn something new to better influence the outcome in his favor. Tokuchi gets this with medium difficulty. Last is emotional control. This is really close as both characters never seem to lose their cool or act in a cocky manner as to hinder their own ability out of pride. Johan has slightly more outbursts, so by this logic, Tokuchi gets this category with hard difficulty. Tokuchi 1 more point, so he gets the overall points, giving him 26 points and Johan with 2 points. Next is linguistic, and this is close, but Johan seems to edge this out in all the categories. There's more to point to Tokuchi in some cases, but Johan always picks the topic to talk about to influence his targets, where there are cases that Tokuchi might say something that can hurt his plans. Johan takes this with hard difficulty, giving him the overall points, which gains him 19 points and Tokuchi with a 0. Next is bodily kinesthetics, and all these categories go to Tokuchi for obvious reasons. He's a baseball player who does pitches and athletics for hours straight, while Johan has nothing to show for this category. Tokuchi takes this with easy difficulty, giving him the overall points, which gives him 21 points and Johan with a 0. Next is interpersonal, and the first category is understanding others' intentions. This seems to go to Tokuchi, who often uses other people's intentions against them, such as the manager he works for attempting to screw him out of his money, while Johan doesn't really show this and is more hinted at. Tokuchi takes this with medium difficulty. Next is understanding what others will do. This is really close as Tokuchi uses what others will do to obtain his goals in baseball, while Johan knows what people will do when they talk with him, which allows him to influence their actions. Johan seems to influence others' actions a little more, so he edges this out, giving this to Johan with hard difficulty. Next is understanding others' limitations, which seems to go to Tokuchi. Tokuchi takes into account the limitations of the game and works within, which allows him to know the limitations everyone else has to abide by, which he takes full advantage of. Tokuchi takes this with medium difficulty. Next is understanding others' knowledge. Tokuchi seems to take this as well for similar reasons as the previous category, realizing the components of the game he's playing as well as how others view it. Tokuchi takes this with medium difficulty. Tokuchi 1 more point, so he gets the overall points, giving him 25 points and Johan with 6 points. Next is existential, and Johan takes all these categories. Tokuchi isn't shown having any particular philosophy, while Johan says he believes the only thing people are equal in is death. This shows a philosophy that has fairly decent consistency. Johan takes all these with easy difficulty, giving him the overall points of 14 points and Tokuchi with a 0. Next is logical, and by default Tokuchi gets all these categories. Johan doesn't have any real showings of any logical capabilities. Most of it is just implied, while Tokuchi is always shown finding information, deducing how to use it, and actively creating plans with the information he gained. Tokuchi takes these with easy difficulty, which means he gets the overall points, giving him 37 points, and Johan with a 0. Next is musical, and Tokuchi gets all these categories as well. He showed that he recognized a drum beat that influenced how the opposite team would play during endgame, while Johan has now showings in this category. Giving this to Tokuchi with easy difficulty mean he gets the overall points, which gives him 23 points, and Johan with a 0. The last section is Naturalist, and the first category is Understanding of Elements. It's hard to tell who would take this, but Johan was enrolled in a special school that he was top of out of all the students, which suggests he would know the idea of elements very well. Johan takes this with medium difficulty. Next is Understanding of how elements work together. Hard to say again, but Tokuchi was shown to be aware of the idea of wiretaps and where they could be because of the distance and the sound they produce, which shows a level of understanding of how elements work together. Tokuchi takes this with medium difficulty. Last, in Animal Nature. This is tough. On one hand, Johan influences people through an understanding of animal nature, but on the other hand, so does Tokuchi, and he does this in more detail. By the standard, Tokuchi takes this with hard difficulty. Tokuchi won more points, giving him the overall points, which is 20 points to Johan, who has 5 points. In the end, Johan stood no chance, only gaining 46 points, while Tokuchi got 183 points. Johan just didn't have enough showing to allow him to compete with Tokuchi. Johan is more of a theoretical genius rather than an actual shown genius like Tokuchi is. Tokuchi won, which means he'll be moving on to the next round. What did you think of this video? Do you think the results were accurate? Let me know in the comments.